This is Here's How, Ireland's political, social and current affairs podcast, presented by William Campbell.
Thank you for downloading episode 63 of Here's How. This podcast is the second in a series of 3 shows looking at people promoting quack cures and unproven medical treatments, targeting people with terminal or uncurable conditions.
Here's How is Ireland's political, social and current affairs podcast. Make your view heard. Just dial 076 603 5060 and tell the world what you're thinking. Your voicemail may be included in the next podcast. You can find tips on recording your contribution and other ways to contact the show at here'show.ie/call.
I talked last week about the hemp company shop in Dublin's Capel Street and their dodgy claims that cannabis oil could be used to successfully treat autism. It's notable that Catherine Sands, writing in the Sunday Times, reported that she got much the same result when she talked to staff at the hemp company as I did. Without any medical qualifications, they gave her what purported to be detailed medical advice. The HPRA is the government body responsible for enforcing the laws against the sale and marketing of unlicensed medicines. I've offered them the original recordings from last week's podcast. I'll let you know if anything comes of that. Now, the hemp company don't even pretend to have any of the medical qualifications that they would need to give the medical advice that they give out. But another organisation that has been in the news is the Kalapa Clinic in Spain, in Barcelona. They're the clinic that Vera Toomey went to get what she was told were medicines for her daughter's condition. The Kalapa Clinic claimed to be specialists in treating people with cannabis products. That's a bit odd because doctors don't normally specialise in a treatment. They specialise in an ailment and learn everything that could help with treating it. So you get oncologists, that's cancer specialists, or psychiatrists, mental health specialists, and so on. Or perhaps GPs, doctors without a specialism, who treat minor ailments and refer more serious cases to specialists. I've checked out the Kalapa Clinic, and they list 3 doctors on their website, and they are, it seems, real doctors. But there's no indication that they have any specialist qualifications. There's nothing wrong with that in principle, until you see that on their website they're listing the conditions that they treat. This is the list: ADHD, Alzheimer's, anorexia, asthma, autoimmune diseases, cancer, chronic pain, Crohn's disease, depression, diabetes, endometriosis, epilepsy, fibromyalgia, glaucoma, headaches, HIV, insomnia, menstrual pains, mixed syndromes, multiple sclerosis, nausea and vomiting, Parkinson's disease, psoriasis, psychiatric symptoms, schizophrenia, spasticity, stress, and Tourette's syndrome. It's just crazy to think that any one clinic, let alone one doctor, could be a specialist in all of those illnesses. I wanted to ask questions to the Kalapa Clinic, and the medical director, Dr. Mariano García de Palau, agreed to give me an interview. When he came on the line, he said that he had a translator called Brian. I think that's Dr. Brian Pegao Gomez, who's also listed on the clinic website, but I couldn't confirm that completely. I've edited most of the Spanish out of this interview, so the voice that you hear most of is Brian, but I've confirmed that he is translating correctly. On a Skype line from Barcelona now, I have Dr. Mariano García de Palau. He's one of the founders of the Kalapa Clinic, and he has been pioneering using some products, including medical marijuana or some derivatives of that, for treating various ailments. First of all, Dr. Mariano García de Palau, can you tell me how you qualified, how you became interested in this area of treatment?
¿Cómo llegaste?
Sí, básicamente me interesó mucho.
He get interested in the plant by itself, and in ludic way, he tried the marijuana. From 20 years ago, he started to investigate every time more, and he realized that it has so many interesting effects like a lot of modulations and a lot of applications in so many pathologies.
And what was your original qualification? Did you go to medical school? How did you start out as a doctor?
El colegio médico.
Sí, soy licenciado en cirugía.
He's doctor in medicine and surgery.
Surgery.
For the people who are listening to this, what exactly is the treatment that you're offering? Is it to smoke a joint of marijuana, or is it something more sophisticated?
Okay. We have so many ways. Like we use oils, concentrated oils. Like they are very well analyzed. We prescribe like marijuana to the people, which they can vaporize, because we don't recommend the smoke in any time because of the combustion. So we can give options to the patients, like if they want to get the treatment with oil, or either they want to take the vaporized weed. But that should be like a well analyzed weed, because we need to know the amount of THC, CBD, and other cannabinoids. And we need to be sure it doesn't have like heavy metals, pesticides, need to be like very, it's like a medicine. It need to be with a good quality made.
And what ailments do you treat with that?
¿Qué enfermedades tratamos con esto?
Pues mira, the chronic pain, professor, and the patients, oncologic patients.
Just to break in there, he's saying chronic pain and oncology patients. That means people with cancer.
And disease, neurodegenerative, Alzheimer, Parkinson, and Huntington, for example.
That's neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and Huntington's disease.
The enfermedades inflamatorias.
Intestinal inflammatory disease.
Crohn and ulcerous colitis.
Irritative colon. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, nauseate, epilepsy, which is the field which we see the better results in epilepsy in children.
Are you typically getting patients by having specialists in these areas referring the patients to you, or do patients come to you directly?
Hay pacientes que vienen directos, y en el caso de las epilepsias infantiles hay
For other diseases, for the mostly of the diseases, the patients, they came by itself because they search information in the website, or other patients recommend the clinic either. And with the epilepsies, for example, we have a lot of cases which neuropediatric, with a lot of prestiges in Spain, they recommend the clinic and send it to us, because we have already in Spain neuropediatric people which they are interested in the cannabis field, because they are showing a lot of effects.
Okay, so for epilepsy patients, you get referrals from epilepsy consultants, but other patients for other ailments come to you directly, having found you on the web. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, and maybe some cases of other illness, they are sent by doctors. Yeah, because in different fields now, the cannabis medicine here in Spain is open every time more. And so much doctors, they are interested in see how it works. Okay.
One thing that maybe concerns me a little bit is that on your website you list a lot of ailments that you suggest can be treated. Is it possible for one doctor, or even for just a couple of doctors in one clinic, to be specialists in all of these very broad areas of medicine?
En principio hay perspectivas de uso. Prácticamente todo está en estudio actualmente, pero sí que nosotros.
Yeah. We know everything is in a study right now, because the cannabis medicine, as you can know, it goes very slow because of pharmaceuticals or any reasons. So what happened? We are more directed to palliate the symptoms in combined therapies with the disease of the patient. We note a lot of good effects in so many pathologies. It's a very wide spectrum, and apparently people come back. So many people, they don't get like you maybe don't get like 100% cured, but you feel like your life quality is increasing. Like even for epilepsy, for example, the child's they increase the everything. They in the school everything.
And have you done peer-reviewed scientific study to validate that?
Yeah.
And has that been published?
We study all as we can. All as we can.
Sure. And has that been published in scientific journals?
Yeah. Yeah, que sí está publicado en journals.
Sí, se recurre a asociaciones.
We have some associations here, like SAIC, for example, the Association for Investigation of Cannabinoids in Spain. IACM.
En Alemania.
In Germany. International Association of Cannabis Medicine. And we recollect a lot of information. We have a lot of publications.
I did a search on Google Scholar, and this is a search engine for searching peer-reviewed scientific papers. And, for example, in medicine, there's many journals like the New England Journal of Medicine or the British Medical Journal and many others around the world. And I didn't find any reference to you. The organizations that you refer to there are obviously cannabis-focused organizations. I'm wondering whether mainstream medical peer-reviewed journals have published any of these articles.
De esos artículos.
Bueno, la mayoría de estudios son preclínicos, ese es el gran problema.
The big problem is the big majority of the studies, they are preclinical.
Okay, so there's no
we don't have
clinical trials.
No,
okay,
no, we don't have. That's the big problem. That's why we are trying to do this to push this up, because we need to then understand in a better way, in a more scientific way, the plant, the cannabis, the cannabinoids, the terpenes, the flavonoids. All the plants it has a lot of good properties, but we don't know how to use it properly because we don't have a trial in that. In anything, we don't have a trial. They don't want it.
In terms of treating patients with a wide variety of ailments, I see listed on your website, and you mentioned Crohn's disease. There's also fibromyalgia, HIV, Parkinson's disease, schizophrenia. Each of these are very specialist areas of medicine, and some people, for example, I spoke to a professor who has spent more than 40 years studying just autism. Is it possible that you don't have the depth of knowledge on any of those particular fields that somebody who has spent 40 years just in one of those fields has?
No puede entender cómo un doctor es experto en todas de ellas. It's because we are not expert in all of them. We don't take the patient by itself. The patient is still seeing their doctors.
El paciente llega diagnosticado.
The patients get diagnosed. We don't diagnose it. We work with diagnosed.
Okay.
We work with diagnosed patients now.
Is it possible then that your treatment on these patients is experimental?
Aquí pasa una cosa, el cannabis por su baja toxicidad se emplea como droga de uso, y en el tema terapéutico
we are trying to make rational the use of cannabis, and one thing that helps us to do that is the low toxicity of cannabinoids, and that's what we try to put order in this, because it's like you say, we don't have a clinical trials. We have a very few information,
yes.
and we need to do it more. We need to keep going in this.
I have spoken with an Irish mother who has an autistic child, and she was told by your assistant at the clinic that you could do a consultation over Skype with this child. Is it true that you do consultations over Skype in order to prescribe medications for an autistic child?
Que si hemos usado Skype.
Sí, usamos Skype.
Yeah, we use
siempre con documentación previa.
We use Skype, but always with previous documentation and studying the case.
Can you understand that for an autistic child that is non-verbal, that cannot speak, it seems like a very unusual way to judge their medical needs?
Hablamos con los padres.
We speak with the parents.
Evidentemente, claro.
We speak with the tutors.
Mm-hmm.
Legal tutors.
Right. I have seen, and I'm sure you'll be aware, there are many Facebook groups and websites that make extraordinary claims for cannabis, and people who are recommending your medicine in Ireland also, for example, share images that say people who have had cancer have stopped taking their cancer medicine and instead take cannabinoids, and their cancer is cured in a very short period. What's your attitude to these?
No, we never recommend take off medications. Never.
And do you claim that it is possible that cannabinoids can cure cancer?
We have a lot of preclinical research and so many studies that they point to that. You know about Manuel Guzman and Cristina Sanchez?
No, I don't. Tell me about those.
Okay. They are members from the Cannabis Observatory of Madrid, which is a very big place where they analyze cannabis. And Manuel Guzman is actually specialized in glioblastoma cancer with marijuana. He had like 10 years.
Es el investigador número uno en el mundo.
He's the number one researcher in the world in marijuana. So you have the reference. You search at Manuel Guzman and you will find it. And he studied killing glioma cells with the THC and CBD and other cannabinoids. They have a very good studies. And Cristina Sanchez, for example, is the number one titled doctor in breast cancer with cannabinoids.
Okay. Was that in vivo or in vitro? In other words, was that in killing cancer cells in a test tube or in human beings?
Both. We can send you even links where they have their studies, but they are in Spanish.
I will try to test my Spanish with that and maybe use Google Translate as well. But I'd be really interested in that.
I have research directed by them from the 2001, 2010, 2017, and they are speaking about it.
Would you accept that there are some pro-cannabis websites and Facebook groups that are making very unscientific claims?
Exactly. No, I totally agree with that. I totally agree.
What have you done to distance yourself from those? Because I'm interested in one Irish person who's leading a campaign. Her name is Vera Toomey. She is promoting your clinic in Ireland, and she is also promoting Facebook pages, for example, that say cannabis oil can cure cancer overnight.
No, we never say it.
It seems like you don't clearly distance yourself from that either.
De que no nos distanciamos de la propaganda, qué sé yo. If the people express her opinion outside, we cannot control that. Like, for example, what I do is a study about weed, cannabinoids, all the things. I try to do my best treating patients. I don't think in websites. I don't think in anything of that. I just want to do this.
Pero es un problema.
Okay.
But it's a problem. All that information is a problem. Yes. That's a bad part, because, you know, every people is taking approaches, is taking advantage of people speaking about cannabis cure the cancer. We never say cannabis cure the cancer. We even say to the people it's not secure. People know. We inform the people. We don't lie to the people. We put everything clear to the people, and the people still want to do the treatment, you know, because they feel something.
But when you say they feel something, the purpose of double-blind trials with placebo control is to separate the effect of people feeling something because they have gotten a medicine and the actual effects of the medicine. You don't have those trials, am I correct?
That is the problem.
That is the problem with the cannabis field. We don't have too much information. The only thing that helps us to do this is the low toxicity of cannabinoids.
Do I understand that correctly? That when you say the low toxicity, you're saying that it's safe to give this to somebody, and even if it doesn't work, it won't do any harm?
No, lo que intentamos realmente es la gente lo está usando, entonces es poner orden.
We are in contact with the people on the observatory, and people is using the marijuana, and they don't die, and we are trying to put order in this. We are trying to like connect everything because we work with doses. We go work with milligrams per kilogram. We don't work like with we use well analyzed products. We know every milligram we give to the patient per kilo. We do it very controlled.
To Translator Brian and Dr. Mariano García de Palau, thank you very much for talking to me.
You too.
It's a pleasure, Professor, for me.
If you like the Here's How podcast, please rate and review the show on iTunes and other podcast providers. Share it on Facebook and Twitter. Tell your friends. But most of all, make your views heard. Call us on 076 603 5060.
So to get more information on what the doctors at the Kalapa Clinic were saying, I got in touch with Dr. Robert O'Connor. He is a leading cancer researcher with the Irish Cancer Society. On the line now, I have Dr. Robert O'Connor. He is the head of research at the Irish Cancer Society, and you've listened to that interview, the whole of the interview with the doctor and his translator from the Kalapa Clinic in Barcelona. To go straight into your area of expertise, does cannabis cure cancer, or is that even possible?
I'm afraid not, and I'm afraid the answer is complex on a number of levels. One, cancer is a collection of different diseases, and each of those diseases has different variations and responds to different treatments in different ways, different levels of severity, and so on. So the fact that one is dealing with a large collection of diseases precludes having a single cure. There will never be a single cure for cancer.
So when they say, and I've seen Facebook posts and other stuff online with people saying that cannabis kills cancer cells in vitro in the laboratory, is that true and is it relevant?
Yes, there have been a number of publications on specific cell lines and some animal models used for testing cannabis and various different cannabinoid agents, THC and CBD, and a number of other chemical mimics of those agents. The challenge is that those are cell models of cancer. They aren't the human condition. The other common element that is seen with in vitro studies like these is they use concentrations of agents that work in their in vitro assay, but they don't actually correlate back to the concentrations that are achievable in the human bloodstream, which one might think would be needed to have a therapeutic effect in cancer. And since we can't do and test every agent on human beings, they're a reasonable start from which to get some element of information, then bring through animal studies and then into human clinical trials. But just because something has been shown to work in a paper in an individual lab does not mean that it has any efficacy whatsoever in the human condition. That needs proper phase 3 clinical trials.
And I've seen on the Kalapa Clinic website, and they also mentioned in the interview, that they are offering treatment for really a very wide range of ailments, everything from autism to Alzheimer's disease and epilepsy and many other ailments. And I asked the doctor there, was he a specialist in all of them? That seems unlikely to me. He said that he was a specialist in using marijuana, using cannabinoids for treating ailments. Does that sound something plausible to you, Robert?
It wouldn't be the medical or research, wouldn't be normal in either medicine or research to have someone treating a wide variety of different conditions with a single agent or with a small number of agents. To focus on a single agent for the treatment of any disease would be quite a worrisome approach. It would be a bit like if you imagine if you had a headache and you went to a doctor who was a specialist in paracetamol. He's going to give you paracetamol. That mightn't particularly work in your headache. You would go to a headache doctor that knows all of the various different treatments that might work in headaches. So usually in medicine, specialities focus on the disease and on the ailment, not on a particular medicine.
And also, he said that I obviously wasn't able to find any references to the work that he claimed in Google Scholar, in published peer-reviewed publications. He said that this was because they were at preclinical trial stage. Is it normal to charge patients who are getting essentially experimental treatments?
My expertise is in cancer clinical trials and in that area, so I'll narrow myself and my comments down to that. Usually, part of the clinical trial process, the quid pro quo for a patient becoming involved in a testing of an experimental medicine is that the agent is provided free of charge, and that all of the other services or tests or whatever might be needed associated with a clinical trial are provided free. And a clinical trial is a very regulated process, and typically clinical trials are registered on clinicaltrials.gov. And there's a whole ethical process, and there'll be a national regulatory authority will approve the clinical trial. So that would involve then estimating how many patients will be needed, etc. It's a big paperwork exercise. It's very expensive, and it's part of the reason that the development of drugs is so costly, because it's so well regulated to protect the interests of the patient. So I've never come across a clinical trial setting where patients would be charged for the agent, and where there are clinical trials, it would be very clear to the patient that they were undertaking them as part of an experimental medicine, not as part of a standard of care.
And finally, what would you say to somebody who perhaps has been told by a doctor that there's very little hope for them, and they perhaps find online either the Kalapa Clinic or somebody else offering what seems like a miracle cure?
This is a challenge that unfortunately quite a lot of cancer patients will face, notwithstanding that more than 1 in 2 Irish cancer patients will now be cured by evidence-based treatment. No one can say to somebody, no, you can't try that. It is my body or it's the other person's body to be able to make a choice. However, people need to look into whether their desperation is going to be abused, whether they're going to be charged large amounts of money by people who have no experience, whether there's any learning to be had from that experience. And we would help support in the Irish Cancer Society, we would help support a lot of clinical trials being undertaken in Ireland. And part of the reason for doing that is occasionally patients may benefit, but also we learn a lot more from that experience. We find out that some agents simply don't work because of clinical trials. So I would suggest that people really need to think and try and get and talk to maybe a clinician, maybe their GP, about the reality of the options that are available to them, and really think long and hard before going off to some of these what are otherwise quack clinics or people with ill-informed beliefs in the magical properties of herbs or spices or energy, or unproven approaches in medicine.
Dr. Robert O'Connor, the Head of Research at the Irish Cancer Society, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you.
Make your view heard. Dial 076 603 5060 and leave a contribution for the show. You can find tips on how to record a good contribution and other ways to contact the podcast at here'show.ie/call.
That's almost the end of episode 63 of Here's How, Ireland's political, social and current affairs podcast, published on the 1st of June 2017. I have references and links in the show notes on the website for many of the things that I was discussing in the show, and if you can think of a topic that should be covered in a future show, or if you want to suggest someone to include, perhaps yourself, then let me know. If you like the podcast, please go on iTunes and give it a rating or write a nice review. Also, please like the show on Facebook, follow the podcast on Twitter at Here's How Podcast, and subscribe to the podcast so new shows automatically come up in your podcast feed. You can use iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or any other podcast app or software. Or now you can go on the website, enter your email address and subscribe by email, so you just get a simple email each time a new podcast is published. There's full information about all of that and contact details for the show, all at www.here'show.ie. The next show will be uploaded next week. The Here's How podcast is produced and presented by me, William Campbell. Thank you for listening.